What I want to know is, have you ever been in a situation where you knew you had to speak up? You knew you had to stand up for what is right, but you were overcome with fear and anxiety, and because of that, you chose silence? I've been in that situation many times. In today's video, I want to talk to you guys about what to do when you're afraid to speak up. Before I get into the video, I want you to know that your voice matters. God has given you a voice for a reason. He's given you eyes to see and ears to hear. We are not dumb. We are very much alive and we have common sense. So when we are faced with injustices, it is so important for us to stand on the side of righteousness and to speak out against those things, as the Holy Spirit leads, of course. In Proverbs 31, verses 8 to 9, it says, "Open your mouth for the mute, for the rights of all who are destitute. Open your mouth, judge righteously, defend the rights of the poor and needy." And in Proverbs 3, verse 27 to 28, it says, "Do not withhold good from those to whom it is due, when it is in your power to act. Do not say to your neighbor, 'Go and come again tomorrow, I will give it,' when you have it with you." Those are just two proverbs that I looked at very quickly that clearly tell us that we have a responsibility to do what is right, and that includes speaking up for those who may not be able to speak up for themselves. And we live in a society where everyone's a spectator. Everyone pulls out their phones to record things, but who is going to act? Who is going to respond and do something and stand up for those that are oppressed? A few years ago, when I was in a certain community, I remember there was a woman who was fighting for the custody of her children. And you can pray for that person because she's still going through a lot right now. I remember going to the church leaders and asking them, "Please, someone, do something. Let's bring this matter before the church." And the situation was too messy. They didn't want to get involved. And that really broke my heart. It really got me thinking and questioning the purpose of church. And it went through a whole process after that, where I left the church and I really started examining myself, but also I started asking God a lot of things, a lot of questions about why people who say that they are His people would be silent in the face of injustice. Now that I am older, I realize that there are many reasons why people are afraid to speak up. There are many reasons why people see trouble and they choose to close their eyes. There are so many reasons. And only God knows our hearts, which is not an excuse, but it is the truth. And so this video is not to judge anybody who has been in a situation where they have maybe struggled to stand up for someone else, or to stand up for truth, or to stand up for whatever it is that you knew you had to speak up or out or against. But this video is to encourage you and to hopefully give you some wisdom on how you can overcome in the future should you be in another situation where the burden falls on you to speak up for those who have no voice, or to speak out against injustice or to stand up for the truth. Because sometimes we have to stand up for the truth even when we stand alone. So after I went through a season of refinement, this lasted maybe 2 to 3 years. During that season, I was actually faced with a lot of situations where I had to speak up for the truth. And for those of you who have known me for a long time, I used to be very timid. It was hard for me to really express myself clearly. And because I had gone through so much trauma as a child, it was also very hard for me to express myself in a self-controlled manner as well. I would cry very easily. I would be very short-tempered. And I had gone through a lot of, depression and anxiety. So I wasn't very stable. Let's just put it that way. But by God's grace, I've been set free from that. And I hope that I'll be able to share with you guys some of my testimonies or bits, detailed bits of my testimonies as we just progress throughout the year. So something that is important about telling the truth and even speaking up for people is that if we don't have love, we are wasting our time, and we are wasting the time of the person who's trying to receive the message. In 1 Corinthians 13 it says, "Though I speak with the tongues of men and of angels, but have not love, I've become sounding brass or a clanging cymbal. And though I have the gift of prophecy and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and though I have all faith so that I could remove mountains, but have not love, I am nothing. And though I bestow all my goods to feed the poor, and though I give my body to be burned, but have not love, it profits me nothing." So if I give my body to be burned, or I do all of the things that is described in the beginning chapter of 1 Corinthians 13, but fail to operate in love, not only am I nothing, but the person receiving it will only hear noise, and it will not profit me in any way. So I want to encourage you to just remember that if you are ever in a situation where you have to speak up, or you have to speak, just remember to speak in love. And if someone rejects your message, even when you're speaking in love, at least you know that you were blameless and that you did what you had to do. We're not always going to see instant results, but the results will come. So the other day I was going through a situation where I was feeling conflicted, and I had a decision to make. I knew that, or I felt that that decision was going to cause a rift in my family, but the longer I waited to bring up this issue was the worst that I felt inside of my heart. I felt like I was being hypocritical. I felt like, how can I say that I love God and that, I stand for righteousness and that I want to please Him with my life, and yet I was so afraid of what, certain family members were going to think, that I just struggled to share the issue that I was faced with. And so finally I shared the issue because the conviction had become so strong that I had no choice. The Lord basically pushed me, and I did it. I faced my fear, and I shared the situation with the people. And to my surprise, they received the message. And a lot of things have changed since then. So that brings me to talking about why people can be afraid to speak up. First and foremost, people's judgments or their rejection. I believe that that is the number one reason why people are very careful and hesitant to speak up when they're faced with, a situation that they know they have to say something. Usually when people are worried about what the person's gonna say, how the person's gonna react, what is the person's opinion gonna be? Are they gonna reject me? You know, that can really